Bare naked, bare naked, bare naked, ABCs. Welcome to the Bare Naked ABCs, where we discuss every single Bare Naked Lady song from 7 to Y. And Betsy, are you living well this week?
I am living well through better Bare Naked Lady songs, yes.
We're kind of
this is one of them.
Yeah, we're kind of getting into this spot where, like, the pit of possible good songs. We may come out of that for a little while, pretty soon, but
a pit is not where I envision good things to be.
a zenith. Maybe we're on top of the mountaintop.
Maybe.
Yeah, the guru. We're hitting where the guru is.
Yep, that's right.
Hopefully, we'll be up there for a while. We may come down out of that. I don't know. I'm hoping we don't.
I think it's going to be more of a roller coaster ride, probably.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate.
Yeah.
So this week we are going to discuss the song Live Well. If you have not heard the song off from Detour De Force, here is a quick snippet.
'Cause I'm alive doesn't mean I lived well. Means I got back up every time that I fell.
And this is one of the songs on this album, which there aren't many, that are written by just Ed Robertson.
Just Ed.
So this week, Ed's up.
Ed's up. Good enough for me.
You know, I never got the pun of heads up, Ed's up.
What? That's disappointing.
I don't know what's wrong with me. How could I not get that joke?
I don't know. You just took it at face value, I guess.
I did. I never thought about it. Shame on me.
Just disc.
And I had my albums and their album covers and all of that sitting on my desk, and they fell on the floor.
It's fallen on its head.
Yeah, it landed on its head. Actually, it was face down.
Right.
Just like next week we will.
Just like.
So, yes, we're talking about the song by Ed Robertson that is the fifth one on the album. It follows Big Backyard, which is an interesting spot for this song to kind of land.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite sure what that was all about.
Well, at least it's not like a jarring kind of switch, like tempo-wise, and
true. It's right there with the rest of it.
Kind of material-wise, it's quite different. But yeah,
we go from this happy song to this, I guess, somber kind of
like kind of quixotic or like introspective, maybe.
Introspective. I like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I got all sorts of big words. I went to college for 7 years. I got all the words you want, all the words you can handle.
Those big words.
Yep. Well.
So how many have you listened to any of the live versions of this?
I've listened to the Selfie Cam Jam. And I've listened to when he's opened and did like that kind of nice dedication to the song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, so there was one where he was in Ontario and he talked about his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he felt that, no one had time for him as the new kid in the family. And that his sister Lynn took care of him and kind of took him places like to the zoo and to the beach and to the park. So it kind of feels like no one had time for him.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah,
he was the baby, right?
I think he's the
baby or the second youngest.
I want to say he's the second youngest.
Okay.
His sister's older. His brother was younger. I think there's one more sibling in the mix that's older.
He had another brother too.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And then on the track by track, he struggled with this song. He said this song was really difficult for him to write.
Right.
Matter of fact, a lot of the intros that I saw for this, he was saying a lot of thank yous to the band for supporting him as they were writing this. So this song really hit him hard.
Yeah.
And his way of
Which makes sense if you think of like one of the ways he introduces it in the live version is that like he's saying that he's basically implying that he's gone to therapy, and he's like, I know you're supposed to be like, kids are supposed to be resilient, but I know a lot more adults in therapy than anything else. Or so he put it in a more eloquent way. But yeah, basically I think this might be a byproduct of maybe some of the stuff that he's processing or in therapy for.
Yeah, I think he has been hurt by his childhood for a long time and never really understood like why he felt the way that he did about a bunch of stuff. His thing that he said on the track by track was this song is about things that leave a mark as a child that still keep affecting you as an adult. Well, Ed, we would call that trauma.
Yeah. That mark is trauma.
That's the official name for that, Ed. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like he the thing is, like, some people would say that what he experienced wasn't traumatic. But the thing is trauma depends upon the person and depends upon the perspective.
You don't have to be getting physically beaten to be traumatized.
Correct. Like, you could, have a dog bite you, and that could be traumatizing. It could still,
or it could just be another day at work for me.
Like, I used to be a postal worker and deliver mail, and yeah, I had dogs attack me, and it didn't stick with me. I was able to recover from it. Other people, though, might not be resilient to that, and it may continue to stick with them. And that's the thing about trauma, is it is very personal, and it's all about perspective.
Right. Agreed.
I also had, at one point, I was driving down the highway, about 20 years ago at this point, and a large bar, I'm showing it's about an inch thick, and probably circular, probably about 3 feet long, came off the back of a truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
like rebar?
It was like rebar, but it wasn't, because it was painted gold. I still have it sitting here somewhere. But it bounced off the truck, went flying into the air, and then came down, bounced off the ground, and straight at my car. And it landed in the windshield at forehead level and came about 1 inch through the window.
Oh my God, it's like Final Destination.
Yeah.
Oh, meaning I can't drive behind logging trucks because of that.
Had that had a little bit more velocity, it would have continued through and also continued through me.
Your brain. Yeah.
And it would have been a very quick lobotomy. I would not have known what had happened for the most part.
Yeah.
Now, was that scary? Definitely.
That's intense.
However, I'm a type of person that I like to tell stories, and I like stories to stick with me.
That's a good one.
And the great thing about stories is that by telling them, you lose some of the fear. It becomes something that you own. Which is why I'm as resilient to things as I am. Like, that could have been a thing that kept me from driving for the rest of my life or never going on the highway.
Right.
So I don't want to say that Ed didn't suffer trauma. Like, it's very obvious that he did. And this song kind of shows it. As a matter of fact, one of the lines I think that shows it the best, my old eyes aren't allowing me to read so well here.
Focus.
But it's in the first verse. He says, "Not that I'm bragging."
Yeah.
So he lists off all these different things about his early childhood, and then kind of says, "Not to say that I'm bragging."
Look back at my childhood. What was he thinking? Scrapbook highlights, smoking, driving, drinking.
I think it's a good point, though, because there's a lot of people, one, that would be like, yeah, that was a cool childhood. You were it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was great. You were in the back of the pickup and riding to the dump. Yeah, we used to do those things. Looking back on it now, it's not something to brag about and to sit there and say was a great thing, because it was pretty darn dangerous.
Yeah. I remember doing that, and I thought it was the greatest thing. It felt so free and everything, but yeah, it's kind of makes you wonder about the adult supervision that you're under or not under at the time to allow you to do that. But
Exactly. And they didn't know any better back then. But I think the point is kind of like people brag about that now. They're like, oh, that was so cool. That was wonderful. It's too bad I'm not allowed to do that anymore. No, it's good you're not allowed to do that anymore because it wasn't safe.
yeah.
And I like that point that he's making, because there's other stuff that he mentions in passing in this song. He does it in very poetic ways. But we've learned not to allow that stuff to happen anymore.
Right.
So one of the examples of that is so it's hard to say on certain parts of this if he's talking about himself, if he's talking about his dad, or what is the mixture here. I'm trying to pull up
I thought he was talking about himself most of the time.
Well, that's where I get confused. And this was written all by Ed. Otherwise, I'd be like, well, maybe this was the other writer saying something.
Yeah.
It's the part where he says, watching licenses lost in the rearview mirror. Now, as far as I know, Ed never lost his license.
Right.
And he says to lose your keys in those days, you had to be hammered.
Yeah.
Now, we know that Ed's dad was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that Ed has never touched a drop of alcohol in his life because of that experience, which is what trauma will do to you. You go to extremes to deal and prevent. So he can't be saying that he's lost his keys from driving drunk. But later on, he also then says, than the nonsense that we did back then.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be better ways of making men than the nonsense that we did back then.
Right.
And
yeah, it kind of sounds like he's talking to his dad for some of this.
The only sense I could make of it, because it sounds like he's talking to his dad, and he sounds like, to me, he's also talking to Lyle.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
And I feel like Ed, in writing this to expel demons about his dad and then himself as a dad, I feel like he did what happens to people when they're dealing with trauma, which is things get blurred, and you lose track of where what things happen to you, what things happen to other people, and where your message is coming from. Mm-hmm. Because the chorus is, I'm convinced him talking to Lyle, I'm alive, doesn't mean I live well. Just means I got back up every time I fell. And then talking about the fact that he got scrapes, got some bruises. The line that says to me, Lyle, is, I know the mistakes that it takes. You're a fool if you choose this.
Right. I mean, I guess I was originally thinking he was just kind of talking to himself to sort things out, but that makes more sense that he could be talking to his son to, like, basically say, make better choices. You don't have to be, so cavalier and kind of foolish about things. And
well, and I was also thinking, like, in terms of because Lyle has his own band. He's going out on his own. He's trying not to live off his dad's laurels, and start his own career. But I almost feel like Ed's like, yeah, it's being an artist is a really hard career. Like,
it's a hard
you're gonna
job
struggle.
For it to be your sole job, it's hard to get a full income on that unless you really break out.
Yeah.
Which
I haven't heard of Lyle's band, so I would guess that it's not taking off like BNL did.
I think it was something airplane themed, maybe.
Oh.
Actually.
Lyle, come on the show. We know you listen.
Yeah, I know. And I don't think it's because they released the album in flight. I think it was that I'm thinking of that. I think it was definitely something, I think, airplane themed. But
Interesting.
Yeah. High Flyers or something like that. Anyway.
Now I'm going to have to look it up after this.
I know. Pause a moment while we Google.
And I think that I like the bridge in the fact that he is saying, like, yeah, I survived. I did okay. And, just because I went through this didn't mean that I was bad. But also, I've made my mistakes. So he says, and I recognize I've done fine. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that I've got mine. And I think he means I've got my mistakes there, too. I as a dad, have done some not great decisions in the process.
Yeah, or like I've got mine, like the expression like you'll get yours kind of thing. Almost like a veiled threat or something. But yeah, there's his band. But yeah, it's very retrospective, like a lot of this album is. Kind of some deep thoughts.
With Jack Handy.
I think this would make an excellent music video, especially if you had it like just kind of filtered through like a little crackly background, like like the old, I guess it's called the reel to reel, like a film projector kind of.
That would be really
antique-y.
cool.
Yeah.
Ed, reach out to us. We'd like to do your video for this.
And because he says the chorus, because he keeps coming back to the chorus so much, I just feel like there's still something missing that he's not telling us. Like some sort of way. I feel like there's a little bit of a wrap up missing somehow, even though he's still saying a lot. I still feel like there's another part to it that he might be leaving out that he's
well, when you said quixotic, like I think that is accurate too, because I think he is being vague in a lot of ways, probably because this is painful.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not fully coming out with what he's saying, and he does that when things are a little bit more when they hit home a little bit more. So for example, with Leave, like we now know that that's about his brother, but had you asked me back when I first heard it if that's what I thought it was about, I wouldn't have had a clue, because he was vague enough that it wouldn't.
Well, you couldn't really tell. Yeah. It's kind of like the missing puzzle piece. You're like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, how was I supposed to know you had that dream about your brother? Yeah.
Right. And it all makes sense once that little piece is in there. But without that at all, it doesn't quite make the sense. And I think that there's a piece missing, like you said, where if we were to get that piece, everything would click into place. I don't know if we'll ever get that, because this is such a personal story to him.
And I mean, it has to factor in too that, like, he's talking about riding in the back of the wagon and everything, and his brother died of a motorcycle accident, right? Didn't he? Motorcycle crash. So it's kind of like, how can that not factor in? So, yeah. Processing his trauma. Poor guy.
Now, you had mentioned that there should be a video like the old reel-to-reel kind of in the background.
Flickering, yeah, kind of.
I wonder how much you were hearkening back to seeing them play this live. Because when they play this live, Ed is playing pictures of family on a reel-to-reel on the background.
Oh, maybe that was subliminal in the back of my head. Well, hey, it's a great idea, right?
It works.
Yeah. Hey.
And actually it does. It gives this song an extra level of sentimentality when he does that.
Yeah, a little more depth to it.
Especially when he starts off the songs, with the intros that he does. Like, okay, just trying to make us cry. We get it.
Yeah. Pass the tissues.
It's even though this is a really powerful song, Fred. They've played this live a lot.
Yeah, I think it means a lot to him, so that makes sense.
Well, I mean, there's other songs that he's done in the past where he wrote them, and you can tell it means a lot to him, and they avoid it in concert.
Yeah. Well, maybe
And
he's trying to do that whole extinction thing where, like, the more he sings about it, the more it's like a kind of a therapeutic outlet.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing is, I wonder if his therapist told him, like, "Hey, the more times you do this,
Get
the
used to
more
this. Yeah.
that you will get used to it, and it will still mean as much to you, but will bring less emotionality to you, and you will start to gain control over it."
Yeah, like maybe it'll be uncomfortable at first, but then you'll be, kind of making progress every time you sing it. So you'll kind of accept it and kind of go through all those stages.
And that's kind of the whole premise behind trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as behind EMDR. And so I would guess, and I'm not his therapist, but I'm guessing that his
That'd be
therapist
so cool if you were.
I would love that. Not that I could tell you if I was. But...
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true. You very well could be. That's why he doesn't come on the show.
That's true. That's why he's avoiding us.
Sure.
I wish. But I could see that his therapist would be trained in those types, because in the processing of that, and especially with EMDR, one of the things that you're trained is to do cross-body stimulation in order to unlock the emotionality and the memories. And playing a guitar is cross-body motion.
Mm-hmm.
And
so is you say EMDR? What's that?
Yeah. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Eye movement. Huh.
So it started with the idea of eye movement, of moving your eyes back and forth almost hypnotically to then access the two different halves of your brain and getting them working together.
Okay.
Because when you're traumatized, your brain halves stop working together. The emotional section and the logical section stop working together when you're thinking of those moments, and you freeze up. And it's been shown that by doing things that cross the midline of the body, such as walking or tapping or following the eyes across the midline, you start to get those two pieces to start to work together in those highly emotional memories. And I can't think of a better example of that than playing a guitar, where you are having to get both of those two things going together and interlocking.
Wow, that's cool.
So
I've never heard of that before.
He has played this song 53 times since the end of 2021.
Wow.
They played it first on December 10th, 2021, and they played it 53 times since then, which pretty much comes down to every concert they've played.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he's feeling better about these memories now.
Yeah. It's probably getting easier each time, hopefully.
Maybe that's why he's feeling so old now.
Yeah, way too old.
He's like, every single concert was a therapy session.
Yeah, he's like,
tired.
I'm exhausted. Just want to take a nap in my Barco Lounger.
We should probably talk a little bit about the music, unless you have more that you would like to talk about with the lyrics.
No, I think I'm finished with the lyrics.
I'm looking to see if I have any other ones. Oh, I did write down that I think that the line about watching the licenses lost in the rearview mirror is about his dad drinking and driving and losing his license to being pulled over by the police.
Right. That's got to stick with you.
Yeah. I mean, and he's right. Like, back then, they let you drink and drive a lot more before they would take your license. So you really had to be severely drunk.
You would have to be not able to operate a motor vehicle, keep it on the road. Yeah.
My musical notes. Well, what do you have?
Not a lot. I mean, I like when it opens, it feels kind of like, I don't know, it kind of feels like you're going to camp kind of, because it's got kind of a banjo-y feel, and it's got like a
Mm.
little bit of a, like that first note or chord is kind of like this warbly strum, so it feels kind of like it's an aged song kind of with a little bit of that warble in there. Um and then depending on which version you listen to, I really like Kevin's contribution with, I think it's the accordion. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Um,
the he does that in the Selfie Cam Jam,
yeah, right. Yep.
which you can
And
tell this is one of the later Selfie Cam Jams
yeah.
because they're like, let's do multiple instruments and we can line it up with a click track and we can...
Yeah. Right, exactly. So I don't know. Again, the accordion to me, I either identify it as, I like, I know it can be like a New Orleans thing, but I either think of Weird Al or Acadian music. And I definitely wasn't thinking about Weird Al for this song, so it just feels like Acadian, Canadian kind of feel to it to me. So
Mhm.
it really fits the lyrics.
No,
That's all
it
I got.
does. It gives it kind of that old timey kind of feel a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
very somber song, and so it
Mm-hmm.
also kind of pulls at the heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah. Somber, but at least kind of like redirecting in such a way that he's kind of learning from not necessarily his mistakes, but like his past experiences, what makes sense to him, what he wants out of life, and what he wants out of life for his kids, apparently too.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it's
trying to
I
trying
can't.
to make lemonade.
I was going to say it sounds optimistic. It's not
Yeah.
upbeat.
Cautionistic is the word we were using before. Cautiously optimistic.
I like it. That's much
Mm-hmm.
better
Mm-hmm.
because it's not upbeat. It's not positive, but it is hopeful.
Yeah, hopeful, kind of sweet, kind of like melancholy, like a little bittersweet maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's sort of like the I had a pretty sad childhood. I'm not affected by it anymore. I've let go of some of this, but um but I didn't make those same mistakes. So kind of feeling good
Mm-hmm.
about himself in that respect.
Yeah. Right. Didn't go down the same path.
I like the electric steel guitar that Kevin's playing,
Yeah, me too.
and it's interesting on the Selfie Cam Jam. And this might just no, they've done the yeah on the Selfie Cam Jam. Jim is playing the electric bass,
Mm-hmm.
but when they play it in concert, he uses grandma.
Huh. Oh yeah. See, I would like Grandma for this better because just a little more soul to it. A
Yeah, it
little more
feels a little
depth. Yeah.
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 Um, Now I was really hoping that we would have Aaron or Beth or Heidi here because Betsy, I have a question that I'm like,
Yeah.
I want the answer. So Tyler on this song in the studio as well as on the Selfie Cam Jam and live, he's playing what looks like a bunch of chopsticks that are tied together. And the only thing I can
Oh.
describe it as is like maybe the wooden version of brushes.
Yeah, I think there's a certain name for them, but Aaron would know.
Yeah, Aaron would be like, "Well, it's this. Why do you not know that?"
It's a blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Actually, he
It
wouldn't say it with that much because he'd be like, "Yeah, it's just this." He wouldn't even make me feel bad about it.
Let's see. Yeah.
But yeah, I like it because it really goes. It adds that softness to the song,
Hmm.
but also gives a little bit of a rattle, which I guess kind of makes it that country feel again.
Right. I'm trying to look it up now. Brushes. But yeah. No, it definitely has kind of a country draw to it, but not like the overly annoying twangy country. It's much more palatable than that. So
Exactly. Well, let's see. Why don't we rate this on how many licenses we've lost? How many lost licenses we would give this song? Betsy, how many lost licenses would you give this song?
Can I propose rear view mirrors since this is all
yes.
about him reminiscing?
I like that. I like that better.
I really like this song a lot. I think it's it's poignant without being too much of a bummer because, like you said, it's kind of, cautiously optimistic and kind of acknowledging the fact that he didn't necessarily go down the same path that he felt was destructive, essentially. And I've been doing a lot of reminiscing lately and going through old photos and things like that too, so I really connect with this song. And it's beautifully done. I wouldn't really change much about it, so I would give it a 4.8.
Wow.
Yeah, I really like it.
Well, I'm definitely going to be the hater this week. What can I say about this song?
That hasn't already been said.
I think everyone plays very well on the song. I think it's a beautiful song. And sometimes I won't change it when it comes on. But I won't ever look this song up. I'm just not a country guy, and this is kind of that Waylon Jennings kind of country ballad, which is fine. It's good. I think that anyone who enjoys that form of country would love this song. It's just not in my wheelhouse, and I just don't enjoy that sort of music. So I have to give it a 3.
Oh, ouch.
Again, beautiful song.
I feel like I got run over by a drunk driver. That hurt me.
Oh.
No, never mind. Cut that.
Well, you know
out.
who's been run over a few times himself?
Grandma. She got run over by a reindeer.
Well, yes, but
at one point.
Super Dave
Dave
Osborne has been run over a few times.
Has he really?
Well, on camera.
Well, that's...
Bob Einstein himself has never been run over, but
well,
Dave
that's what
Osborne.
Makes him super. Yeah, right.
That's right.
Take a licking
he knows
and
how
keep
to
on
live
ticking.
life. He knows how to live life to the fullest.
Well, he did.
That's true. Yes. Sadly enough. And so yeah, next week we're gonna talk about a man who landed on his head very often. And we get to talk about the song "Landed on My Head."
Phew. I'll have to take a listen to that.
I'm actually really excited to talk about that song.
Are you really?
I love Super Dave.
I think I might have heard it once, like 20 years ago or something. I don't know.
20 years ago.
I think, yeah. It sounds vaguely familiar. I'll have to brush up on it, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it next week. Hopefully we'll have more people join us, but thank you for joining me tonight.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks. That was fun.